The Atheist Debates Patreon project presents Don't Waste My Time. So I already posted a video. I did this great hangout. It's a two-part thing with the Empathetic Atheist. Please go by and give their channel a view. They did an interview with me that discussed a little bit about debating and other things. And so I thought it was of value to the channel. There's also a bonus video of the after show, which included me interacting with a number of believers, including a nice Mormon woman and someone who says he's been called a Calvinist, but he's not sure, whatever. His name was Johnny. And Johnny's call into the show prompted, I guess, something that was a shutdown on my part, which shocked him. I'm just trying to have a conversation here, and Matt just shut it all down. Well, I thought I'd talk about that a little bit today because Johnny's God model is an absolutely useless waste of everybody's time, and yet it is an incredibly common God model. It's just not always expressed as honestly as he did. And so to Johnny's credit, he was honest and straightforward. So what is this God? What is it? What do you mean by God model? Well, everybody has some sort of God concept in their head. When they think of God, whether they are in fact religious or adhering to a religion, there's a number of features and facets that come with that. Basically, I could just say their theology. And in the discussion with Johnny, I talked about his personal theology, which absolutely seemed to offend and bother him, even though there's nothing about that that's remotely surprising. Every single person has their own theology. Whether or not it matches up with somebody else's, it can. I'm sure that there are two people somewhere who have virtually identical views about theology. I'm sure there are groups of people that have largely consistent views of theology. And then we get to the level where we're talking about a given church, like the First Baptist Church of Harvester. If you polled the people in there, various questions about what they thought about God, you're not going to get absolute uniformity. You're going to get each of them acknowledging their particular theologies. There's nothing insulting or remarkable about this at all, apart from the fact that people don't seem to think it's true. And the most remarkable thing about this is that they're running around, and they should realize that all of us think something slightly different, but similar, and pretending as if they all accept the same thing. And they do so for good reason, and they're all right. Even though we know there have been countless fights between people of identical doctrines denominations about differences in doctrine. It's why there's Baptists and Episcopalians and Pentecostals and Catholics and Presbyterians and all of this within the banner of Christianity. And then when you get out, there's different versions of Islam, there's different versions of Hinduism, there's different versions of everything. Because we're not one brain, and while humans are incredibly similar, we're not identical. Imagine that you moved to a new country and you think you have an understanding of what your legal rights are and what the law is. And someone comes up to you and says, no, what you're doing is illegal and you are going to be caught and punished. And you ask them, well, where do I find out what's legal and not? What are you pointing to? And they say, if you go down to the town square, there's a big pillar right there that has these rules listed on it, and you can check it out. Yes, but how do I know that those are the actual law? Well, who else would put that big pillar down there with all those things on it? Yeah, well, but what is the legal authority behind this? And how do I demonstrate this? And how do I test it? Each person you meet in the town has a different opinion about the law. And even when they're all pointing to the same source, even the people who are pointing at that pillar and saying, look, it's all written right there, don't agree on what that law is. Further compound this by the fact that at no point is there any publicly held hearing. There's no publicly held trial. There's no publicly held demonstration of justice ever. You're living in this town and everybody keeps saying, one of these days you're going to get caught for breaking rule number 4. And yet they can't point to a single time where anybody has been caught by anyone breaking Rule 4 in any sense where they were tried, convicted, judged, etc. There's never any sort of direct word from the governing authorities. There's just somebody standing out by the pillars saying, "Today the governor has announced that these laws are still the foundation of our society. Obey them." And then if you talk to that person, they can't demonstrate that they're speaking on behalf of the governor. And there's somebody next to them who says, "That's not what the governor said." And they can't demonstrate it either. There's no clarification. There's no trials. There's no updates. There's no nothing. No one's ever demonstrated that this law is anything to be concerned about at all, or even what it is. And the penalty for nearly everything is annihilation. You do this, step on a crack, do whatever, you're dead. And you're presumed guilty from the beginning, and you have to demonstrate your innocence. And the law holds that you can't actually demonstrate your innocence, that there's no way for you to demonstrate this at all. And in fact, you're guilty from the get-go. That is, from the standpoint of those people in that village, indistinguishable from lawless chaos. Johnny, when he talked to me, we had a back and forth. It's in the video that I previously linked to, and you can check it out over at Empathetic Atheist, the after show. Johnny's view of God is like this town, in that he thinks that God will reveal himself to people, but the decision about whether or not to reveal himself to people is entirely up to God. So Johnny feels that he's had this revelation, and I haven't. I have no way to tell whether or not Johnny's had this revelation or any other, but I would agree that I haven't. I would also point out that I thought once upon a time that I had this revelation. I no longer think that's the case. And so the story that Johnny's telling here is that God will choose who he's going to reveal himself and who he's not. And that if he doesn't reveal himself to you, you can't have a justification for believing in God. That if God isn't there to say, "Hi, I'm here," it's understandable. You as an atheist, you as a non-believer, you can't have that justification. There's no way for you to demonstrate that a God exists. There's no way for somebody who's had this revelation to demonstrate, which makes it kind of strange, because I'm going to be, in his mind, judged. And there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. No amount of searching, no amount of sincere attempts to contact this God. It's ultimately up to God who he's going to reveal himself and who he's not. It's kind of like saying your house is going to get hit by a tornado or it's not, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just whatever happens, happens. Or you're either going to get struck by lightning or you're not. There's nothing you can do about it. This sort of fatalism view of Christianity, it's no surprise that he has been called by many people a Calvinist. And it's not a position that is incredibly uncommon. But if you say to someone, "Hey, you're either going to get hit by lightning or you're not," well, congratulations, you've now wasted my time. I already know that. Even if lightning doesn't exist, I already know that I'm either going to get struck by lightning or I'm not. But if you say, yes, but the lightning chooses who it's going to strike. So hang on. If it chooses who it's going to strike, what can I do about it? Nothing. You can't do anything about it. You're either going to be struck by lightning or not, and it's entirely up to the lightning. Meanwhile, they think that the lightning has favored them, that they are special and chosen. Not that they're deserving of this, just that the lightning has decided to spare them because they are special. And when the lightning strikes me, they are cheering it on as if it's a good thing. And yet they can never demonstrate the truth of any of this, which makes it all just arrogant, subjective opinion. And that's why it's a monumental waste of time. Not every God model, not every theology is as useless to discuss as this. But if you find yourself engaged with someone and they have this model, And they sit there and say, I don't understand why you're an atheist. Well, that's disingenuous. They acknowledge you're an atheist because you haven't had this revelation, that there's nothing you can do to have this revelation, that ultimately it's up to God. And by the way, if you're a Christian watching this and you don't hold to this particular theology, then I'm not talking to you, and I'm not talking about your theology. So don't come in to tell me, Matt, you're wrong. Matt, that's not what the Bible says. That's not what Christianity is. That's not what my religion is. You were taught wrong. No, I'm responding to an individual who holds this view. And if you have an objection to that, you can take it up with them, and you can also stop wasting my time. See you next time. Bye-bye.
This video is made possible by supporters of the Atheist Debates Patreon project. You can find more information and add your support at patreon.com/atheistdebates.